Welcome to our new program, 401k Real Chat. This is Fred Barstein, contributing editor for wealthmanagement.com's RPA Edge and CEO at TROW, TPSU, and 401k TV. I invite the most interesting, innovative, and impactful retirement and wealth management professionals that I know, asking them to provide open, honest, and candid answers to three important and at times difficult questions. So let's get real. So this week we host Ralph Haberli from Capital Group, the home of American Funds, where he is president of their institutional retirement client group. Welcome, Ralph.
Brett, it's great to be here, and it's great to be part of 401k Real Chat.
Thank you. So let's get started. It seems like we've been talking a long time about the conversion of wealth and retirement, but it's really starting to take off. In the past, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, most RPAs focused on plan level services, and most wealth advisors were not keen on DC plans. Why do you think that's different now? And I know at American Funds, you're sort of at the crux of retirement and convergence of retirement and wealth. Why is it different now? It seems like it is.
Well, I think in many respects, Fred, what we're seeing here is that the growing up and the maturing and the natural evolution of the advisor segment broadly. We've seen a lot of consolidation, a lot of advisor groups coming together, getting larger, growing in scale and size. And if we'll come at it from both sides, if you're an advisor that's really built his or her practice around defined contribution plans, has gotten to some real size there, call it 1 or 10 or even more than that, billions in assets, are looking at what's next. Again, that maturation and that growth. And I think a very logical step is to say, okay, have these relationships through the 401k side, through the plan side. There's a bunch of participants that are going to hopefully have a very good experience and good outcome through their 401k plan, but it isn't where they're going to end up ultimately. There is going to be that rollover moment, that broader wealth business, and whether there's someone who's in a plan with a very meaningful amount of wealth, maybe that's a portion of their total asset base, or someone where most of their wealth is in their 401k plan, there is that next step. And I think a lot of the energy and focus and the success, frankly, that's come from 401k advisors, DC advisors that have built that base of plans and assets, and are now looking at that next evolution in their practice, are saying, well, look, I've got these relationships. What do we do with them? And how can we start to change our focus and energy on those? On that next step of life and that next step of evolution. You mentioned technology. Technology is a big part of this. This is, in theory, easy to do, and it's hard to do in practice. And in addition to the maturation of the business, of the size of some of these advisory organizations and shops, technology is catching up here, and it's taking things that used to be very difficult and making them more achievable and a bit easier to get after. So, Fred, that's what we're seeing as a big driver behind the increased attention from historically defined contribution advisors that are now turning their attention to wealth as they look to grow and further their practice. Now, coming at it from the other side, if you're an advisor that's built a big practice around wealth management historically, perhaps you had 1 or 2 plans, you've dabbled, let's say, in the 401k side of things. There have been some pretty meaningful regulatory developments that have perhaps gotten your attention now. So Secure Act, state plans, if you're working with some high net worth clients, some well-to-do clients that have a business, perhaps that was on your list, but never made it onto the top 3 or 4, or even top 1 of your list to get after that 401k, that plan conversation with them. Now that someone's going to be having that conversation with that client of yours, those advisors want that to be them. So we've seen in states that do have that 401k mandate, now that retirement mandate, there's been a big uptick in new plan formation. We're seeing a lot of advisors that are now moving the 401k conversation up their queue, and they need help with that. So if you're an advisor that just has 1 or 2 plans, doesn't do a lot of 401k business, it is different, it's new, it's frankly pretty hard that first time around. And that's been something that we've spent a lot of our time on at the Capital Group and American Funds, is helping those advisors with that first plan, that second plan, getting that up and running. Again, with the view that they don't want to shift their focus off that wealth practice, which is at their core, but they certainly don't want another advisor coming in through the side door for one of their clients, and starting with that plan conversation and leading into a broader wealth conversation. So there's a bit of defense there, Fred, but that defense has led to quite a lot of momentum and energy, both at advisor level as well as a dealer level, as they respond to that environment and respond to that trend.
In plan retirement income, similarly, in investment personalization, which we've been talking about a long time, also seems to be getting a lot of attention now, especially with new technology and better access to data. What should advisors be doing advocating to their plan sponsor clients about retirement income? Because it's going to take that advisor pushing and helping and enabling their clients to do this. What should they be saying to them?
Well, Fred, I think you're spot on. This is another one of those areas that's been out there for quite a while as a topic, and is really picking up some momentum and tangible momentum in the marketplace. As an advisor, it's very important that you're front foot here. So this really gets the core of your role as an advisor, to advise, to highlight options, to explain, to educate. We work with a lot of advisors and consultants to some very large plans, where at a minimum, this is a conversation they want to and need to have in front of a committee. So if you're that advisor, being well-versed in this topic, well-versed in the options, knowing what retirement income could be, what it should be, and explaining that to committee and walking them through is something that is consistently valued. And an advisor thinking about his or her value proposition to the plans that they work with, I think would be well served to really put retirement income at the core of that, because it's something that plan sponsors want to talk about. The underlying demand for income, guaranteed income for life, we'll go broad on it, is fairly uncontroversial. How you get there continues to be tricky. So if you look at broad surveys, certainly the experience that we've had, the notion of a pension-like experience, that paycheck for life, you get a lot of head nodding in conversations with investors, with plan sponsors, with advisors around that. A lot of challenge and nuance in how you get there. Is it in plan? Is it out of plan? That's an opportunity for, again, that advisor to walk through some of those choices, to unpack some of the realities that underpin the high-level value proposition, and bring that to life for plan sponsors. There are more choices out there than we've seen in the past. Some of them are quite complex and complicated, and are very nuanced in how they come at this question of retirement income, in plan or otherwise. Others are more straightforward. I'll tell you, Fred, our experience has been that simplicity is really the key. Don't overcomplicate, and focus on the basics. Operational is more important than investments. And I say that as someone at the American Funds. We certainly are an investment manager. That's our bread and butter. We also have a record-keeping capability, and that has given us some insights into the importance of those operational aspects of it. And on this topic, retirement income, keeping it simple and getting the operations right is really critical, as advisors and then the plans that they work with sort through the various options that are available in the marketplace.
You think it needs to be part of the QDIA, whether it's the target date or managed account, or as a separate investment option?
Well, I think as a first step, we certainly are big advocates of choice. So getting it into a plan design and a plan lineup where participants have the opportunity to choose to participate is something that we believe quite a bit in, and we'd be advocating for. Once you step beyond that choice and get into QDIA, you're in a slightly different territory. Now, we all know that to drive real adoption and real uptake and asset flow, you're going to have to be in that QDIA part of the lineup. You're going to have to be tapping into auto enrollment. perhaps auto escalation. It's going to have to be more of a default. I think that's a choice for plan sponsors to talk through with their advisors and think through with their advisors is where does choice end, and a bit more of a QDIA type approach, which guides people to the right place. Where does that start, and what's appropriate for them and for their plan? But at a minimum, having that choice and then having the education around that choice so participants know, A, that it's there, and then B, how to process and make an informed choice would be our suggested approach.
You mentioned how American Funds is focused more on helping clients than actually marketing or selling your services. Can you provide some examples and guidance to advisors on what they should be doing to differentiate themselves beyond FFs?
It's a great question, Fred, and the core of our value proposition to advisors really comes down to helping them grow their practice. So when a retirement plan advisor, and this could be someone that has 500 million, a billion, multiple billions in assets, when they think about the partners that they have, either record keepers or other asset managers, we aspire to be that first call. And it could be anything from a small question of this share class versus that share class. We've touched on retirement income. We've touched on the bridge to wealth. So small questions, big questions, we want them coming to us and to the client associate that is in their territory, seeing them on a regular basis as that first port of call. That allows us then, through the course of that conversation, to help them to add value to their practice. And ultimately the path to our investment services, our record keeping service, other things we can do for them is really a natural outflow of that. So Fred, we do start with that core value proposition. What's on the advisor's mind? How can we help him or her grow that practice? And then over time, we're a commercial enterprise. They ultimately know why we're there, and we're able to help them through the services that we offer. I lay that out, Fred, to say that is the same approach that we see the most successful advisors take with their clients. That they're putting that plan sponsor at the center. What does that plan sponsor need? Not starting with the next service or the next offering, the next line item on the bill, but really focusing on that relationship. And then through that relationship comes their ability to add value in various ways, to deepen that relationship, to broaden it, and certainly to add that durability to that relationship where, let's say they're working with a client that goes through an M&A type arrangement to similar size companies. They want to be in that position where when that comes together, they're the logical advisor that's going to get the broader relationship. And at that point, a lot of that does come down to the path that they've laid really over their entire time, in some instances, decades working with that client, establishing that depth of relationship and that trust, which comes from helping them at the core of the issues that they're dealing with and they're solving. Again, I'll go back to earlier in our conversation, we talked about retirement income. That's a great example of the type of engagement that I would encourage advisors to take, educate, answer questions, answer the stupid questions, in quotes, that plan sponsors may have, even if there's not an immediate next step out of the back of it to build that long-term relationship and support that plan sponsor as he or she leads that organization.
And you had mentioned previously about things you're doing, let's say with some very large clients to help them versus going in and just talking about your funds. Do you recall some of those examples where you've helped some institutional clients?
Well, certainly, Fred. I mean, one area that we're very excited about is the participant and engaging with participants in a more direct fashion. We took a bit of a page here out of the consumer marketing playbook. So what do I mean by that? I think we all consume on a daily basis, whether we know it or not, ads, nudges, various pieces that are driving us towards that next purchase of, anything from cereal to shoes to whatever it might be. So a couple years ago, we took 3 steps back and said, well, look, there's clearly a lot of action that's being driven off the back of more consumer goods marketing type approaches. Could there be an opportunity to apply some of that to the world we live in, the 401k world, the retirement world, and specifically the savings challenge, and really ran in partnership with a large plan sponsor, a pilot, to say, okay, let's go do some consumer research on your participant base. Let's define different segments. Let's test in the way a consumer marketing organization would what resonates with that segment, what words work, what words don't work. Let's parse that out by different participant populations and set ourselves what we thought at the time was a relatively modest goal of really just doing two things. One, getting them to pay attention, so pop their head up. And then two, once they've done that, to take action. Now, take action really was just engage with their 401k plan. In this case, it wasn't make a specific investment decision, buy a specific strategy. It was just engage. And that approach it has been one that we're very excited about and have seen some very good traction from. The modest aspirations up front, Fred, have actually proven to be very successful. And keeping it simple, keeping it tight, we've seen some very strong, and we can now measure this just with the stats we're getting, very strong incremental engagement, incremental action. And what this plan sponsored, it's public, so I'll share it here. It's the Barnabas Health Group in New Jersey, a very large plan sponsor. In the midst of COVID over the last couple of years, a ton going on with their participants, certainly, and we're able to help them communicate with that participant base and then drive that action. And the key thing for them was driving savings behavior, and can now point to the data of the control group and the test group, where we've really seen higher engagement and then translating to higher savings behavior, which for Barnabas was core to what they were looking to accomplish as an organization and what their HR department was looking to accomplish. So. Yes, we manage assets for Barnabas. We manage their target date strategy. So again, we certainly are part of their plan in a meaningful way. But the way in, both to impact that relationship and really drive and deepen that partnership, was something that was very unrelated to the core of what capital really does, which is manage assets. So that just is one example. That's one we're going to continue to evolve and have some other pretty exciting things in the hopper there, which I'll be eager to share with you over time.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks, Ralph, for joining today.
Thank you, Fred. It was great. I enjoyed it.
And thanks for watching this episode of 401k Real Chat. Please let me know who else you'd like to hear from, and I will invite them to get real. Thanks again.